John. So, first of all, very nice to see you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for joining us for this interview. Very happy to have you and Bauk. Do you want to give a short introduction about you and your company?
Absolutely. So my name is Jon Gravråk, and I'm the CEO of Bulk Infrastructure. I used to work with telecom and digital infrastructure for quite a long time, to begin with in McKinsey & Company within the telecom sector there, and then I was part of Telenor's group executive management team, and then I started in Bulk some 3 years ago. So that's short about me. Bulk Infrastructure is a very exciting company. Started out on the industrial real estate side as a developer of infrastructure, you might say, for the logistics and the value chains in the Nordic region. And then back in 2012, 13, 14, started to go into digital infrastructure. And now we are a developer and operator of both fiber networks, international fiber networks, as well as terrestrial within the Nordic region, as well as for data centers, mostly addressing the international demand that want to make use of renewable energy and a sustainable operation here in the Nordic region.
That's quite a journey that you made yourself. Very interesting. But you mentioned the key word there, the magic word for today, which is sustainability. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about your sustainability strategy at Bulk and how you see also the Norway playing a role in this.
Absolutely. So Bulk, I would say, is more than sustainability as part of the strategy. So Bulk was back in 2006 founded to have an impact on sustainability. It started out with the logistics industry and seeing a need to move that one out of the Oslo city center to make it more effective and less polluting in a way from all the big do you call them big cars? It's not the right word, but big cars going in and out of the city center, and instead handling that outside, both reduce the traffic problem as well as improve the air quality of Oslo as a capital city. And then since then, it's just developed in that direction, looking for bigger opportunities to have an impact on sustainability. And when we started to look at digital infrastructure, Bulk realized that this is a huge challenge, globally speaking. We are into the data age, and the digital society is already coming here, but it's at a cost, which is an enormous hunger for power. And most of the times that power is not produced in what you'd call a green way, but still a lot of fossil fuels and so on being used to produce power. So then seeing the Nordic region, and in particular Norway, perhaps with an amazing renewable power production, especially based on hydropower and also increasingly wind power, could do as they've done for 100 years, support power-hungry industries, but now in a new flavor. So we saw the opportunity of making the Nordic region as a hub for doing the heavy data processing that you could do anywhere. Why not do it close to the renewable power sources? So that's been a bit of the idea of Bulk, to really think differently around how this global architecture looks like when it comes to digital infrastructure. So with that vision in place, if you like, we have invested into new fiber routes that connect the Nordic in a completely different way, enables access to the use of this surplus of renewable power. And we've also invested into data center capacities at the crossroads of these new fiber routes. So that's the idea and the strategy. And as I said, it's our vision. So it's more than a strategy. Our vision is, to be exact, racing to bring sustainable infrastructure to a global audience. So that's why we're going to work every single day.
Yeah, and I have to say I really think myself that Bulk is quite bold in this when you build the interconnect between Oslo and Copenhagen, really moving the region forward and really being not afraid of doing whatever is necessary to enable customers to move their workloads into the Nordics even further. So I think it's quite impressive, the journey that you're on. In terms of sustainability, so you're coming from that. It's your current focus in your strategy. How do you see that going to tomorrow? So what are the next steps for you in terms of your business, but also in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, and I think we have, as I said, been working hard on this at the high strategic level, and actually been guided by sustainability impact in terms of how we've made our investments. What we see is that we need to follow through all the way into the daily operations of our businesses. So more recently, we have announced a head of sustainability in our organization to make sure this is really on top of the agenda for all the business areas. We have made being a leader on sustainability as one of our 4 strategic pillars as well. We have made all the business areas at least have one strategic objective linking directly to sustainability. One of their top 5 objectives for the year to come needs to be around sustainability. We have invested quite a bit into understanding the baseline. So we're mapping out according to the GHG protocol what is actually our baseline, and thereby making a foundation to continuously work on improvements also on the operational level going forward, and making sure that will be a fact-based approach versus more of a gut feel and initiative by initiative type of approach. So it's quite a few things actually going on to operationalize, in a sense, this overall vision of ours.
But it sounds really good. I like that you're starting with this assessment. I think it's important to have all the numbers, to have all the data to make the right choices. Are there any technologies or innovations that you're particularly looking at that are interesting for you to advance that agenda?
Yes, we're looking at a few different things, and it varies a bit in between the 3 different business areas. But given the scope of today's discussion, I'll stick with the digital infrastructure part. There, I think we're looking in particular at how you, as a data center operator, could play a role back into the holistic power system. And one of the things we've been taking an extra look at is the backup power for the data center operations, which traditionally have been fueled by diesel, so to speak, on the gensets, and we look for different opportunities on how to maintain the right level of backup without having to use diesel. And when doing that, you quickly look into hydrogen type of opportunities, you look into grid scale battery type of opportunities. And once you do that, you realize that, okay, if we have a massive scale on the backup power for our own sake, then we could also play a very useful role back to the power system and make a difference in what's called the balance market here in the Nordic region, and helping out on balancing the grid essentially. And maybe that's even a business opportunity in itself. But to begin with, we're looking at it to get rid of the diesel gensets, hopefully over some time, and be a promoter of new type of solutions for the backup power.
It's great that you're pursuing that path. It's something that we've advocated for quite some time, and even more good to see you coming to join the Alliance to support that agenda item. And we're, of course, also happy to support you. But great that you're making progress in that direction. What would you say in the pursuit of sustainability? What are some of the challenges that you encounter from a business perspective in realizing those ambitions most of the time?
I think there's a couple of challenges. One which is always there is always the total cost of ownership relating to the solutions. And I think even though the digital infrastructure industry is a forward-leaning industry and, you know, part of the drive to bring the world forward, I guess, there's still quite a lot of traditional thinking here that, you know, you like to have the backup power with the spec you've always had it with, you know, an N plus or 2 plus N type of solution for the diesel gensets and so forth. So coming around that notion of, you know, what has been working for the past 10 years should probably be the same which is working the next 10 years is a bit of a challenge. I think we see more and more I'm sorry, more and more customers as well being open for these new type of ideas and want to be part of experimenting with them. But there's still, you know, when it comes to the final end in a bid process for new capacities, there's always, you know, a bit of a leap of faith to bring forward an innovative solution to backup power, for example, versus just providing the traditional solution. So that's one challenge which I think is improving rapidly around us. Another one is then the cost itself. Sometimes doing the new stuff comes with an initial cost that over time you can calculate to a good business case, but initially maybe it's a higher cost and a bigger investment, meaning that, you know, the financial backers and the administration itself needs to make decisions that are not always cost optimal, but will be so over time, which again requires, you know, longer term thinking, perhaps putting a stronger value to the benefits of those solutions than what is, you know, completely possible today and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. It's the business case and sustainability is often forgotten, that it's not just about the environment, but it's also balancing economics and society and the environment at the same time. Yeah, so it must be a good investment for the business as well. I very much agree. Yeah. Switching a little bit to the SDIA and maybe some questions around why you felt it was important for you to join the Alliance and what you see for us to deliver to you as in terms of value.
Yeah, I think when we first learned about SDIA, it felt like it was a very good match with our own thinking. You know, these are some, you know, knowledgeable, capable people that have seen a bit of the same as we believe we have ourselves, see the same types of solutions and the same types of challenges. So that felt intuitively as a good match in terms of the thinking and the thought processes behind that thinking. And then secondly, I think we saw an organization that has put a well-structured framework into play, actually creating sense out of all of these different types of topics and you know, having enabled a way of actually having an impact on those topics instead of not just talking about them. So we felt encouraged by that notion. And then I think finally it feels like a very open and collaborative group of people, which is there with impressive levels of expertise on relevant matters. So we felt it would just be good to connect here and both to be challenged ourselves, but also to find a bigger arena where we can discuss and challenge others as well, and perhaps collectively we can move a bit forward.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Where do you think we will see BARC the most in terms of the roadmap and in terms of activities? You mentioned earlier already, for example, replacing diesel gensets with alternative means of backup generation. Do you feel like there will be other sustainability topics that you will be very hungry to learn more about, or that you will put forward as a so to say visionary data center?
Yeah, I think what we also want to learn is as much as possible on how the bigger market is reacting, because some of these things you can have a very clear view yourself on the right solution and what type of impact that will bring, but the broad sustainability agenda is informed and shaped by many different stakeholders. So if you want to run a good business at the same time as you strive for making a sustainable impact, you need to adapt to those stakeholders and do the right things in their opinion as well. It's not only enough to do what you believe is right yourself. You need to do what you believe is right, but also which is perceived as the right thing to do by others. And I think that's one critical element of the SDIA relationship, which I hope to get, is to feel not only what matters at this moment in time, but what will matter in the years to come somehow, so that we can adapt and work on the right things, thinking a bit more broadly than just ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great mindset that you're putting forward. I read it as like trying to be always also at the forefront of, so to say, what is the IT sector thinking and doing, what is the energy sector maybe thinking and doing, and being at the forefront of that pyramid. So I think that's very interesting. Rounding it off a little bit, maybe a quick glance at what's coming up at Bulk. What are maybe some of the most exciting announcement or anything you can share already from Bulk that we should look forward to in the next couple months or years? What's in your pipeline at the moment?
So I think we will work on this alternative backup power strategy. So hopefully you'll see real experiments, hopefully together with customers committing into those experiments as well. And we'll make sure to share quite openly the experience with those type of innovations, whether it's good news, but also I think a bit of the bad news, because it's important to play with transparency here to have an impact on more than just ourselves. I think you should expect Bulk to have at least quite high ambitions when it comes to making the sustainability strategy a fact-based one. So as I alluded to before, we are now doing a bigger piece of work to establish that baseline to begin with across all of our business areas and across all of our value creation processes. What's the actual footprint when it comes to especially GHG type of footprint, and we want to use that fact base obviously to improve ourselves over time. But I think our aspiration is to also create a bit of a standard for how digital infrastructure and data center operators should report this type of numbers to make it possible to compare apples with apples, and for external stakeholders to make their own opinion about whether the things we do are the right ones and whether they have the impact we say they will have.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're changing to this fact-based model. I think it's time that basically the entire digital infrastructure value chain moves a little bit forward on the same set of metrics and maybe a little bit away from efficiency and more towards actual footprint. So I think that's really nice to hear, Jon. I think you and Bulk, you're doing great work. You're really at the forefront of what is happening in the data center world. You're obviously very well located in Norway with access to hydro and soon also wind power. And yeah, we're really happy that you're there. We're really happy that you're part of the alliance, and we're really looking forward to the collaborations in the next couple months.
So are we. Thanks a lot for having us on board.
Thanks, Jon.